Hey guys, so today we're going to be focusing on your shoulders and your abs, okay? So in this exercise, what I really want you to focus on is making sure that your wrist, elbows, and shoulders stay in line with each other, okay? And then something too that is a really helpful tip that a lot of people don't know is whenever you're doing a push-up or a plank variation or either of those exercises, the goal is whenever you are doing it. So normally we just kind of stand there and hold our body weight up. But the goal is if you actually actively push away from the earth, you'll be able to activate your core more and it'll also alleviate some of that stress off of your shoulders, okay? So if you're somebody that has done push-ups and planks and you're just like, after 15 seconds, your arms want to give out before your core, that's just because you're not alleviating some of that stress from the upper body and putting it onto your core, okay? So whenever you actively push away from the earth, you're going to feel more core work and also, like I said, just alleviating of the shoulders, okay? So make sure during this exercise, like I said, you're being mindful of your movements and also core, okay? Core is super important and it is the middle of everything. It's like a nucleus, okay? So the stronger the core, the better the overall body, okay? So make sure, like I said, be mindful. And also when you're doing these, make sure to breathe, okay? Especially when you're doing some of your ab exercises. A lot of times it gets really easy for us to just stop breathing because our body's just trying to figure out how to do a movement, okay? So make sure you inhale when you're lowering in a movement. So when you're doing a push-up, when you lower your tummy to the floor, that's going to be the inhale, and when you push up, that's the exhale. So whenever you're exerting the most force is when you want to blow out as much air, okay? So you have to breathe in all that air to get all the oxygen to the muscles, and then exhale, push everything out because you really don't need that oxygen anymore, okay? You need it before you do the movement, okay? So inhales and exhales. I'll try to cue you two during this exercise. But I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you guys soon. So here you are going to be doing push-ups. You can do modified push-ups if you need to, regular push-ups, or if you like to go for a challenge, you can definitely try adding a bounce into your push-up. Just make sure when you're doing these that wrist, elbows, and shoulders are in line with each other and core is really tight. Here we're going to be doing mountain climbers, so again, please make sure your wrist, elbows, and shoulders are in line with each other. You want to make sure your belly button is pulled to your spine so your core is really nice and tight. And you want to make sure you don't drop your hips or lift your hips during this movement. And you're here bringing your knees up to your chest without bouncing your hips very high, okay? So the goal is to keep the hips really neutral as you're doing these mountain climbers. So keep the core really tight. Alright, here you're going to be doing plank hops. So again, please make sure wrist, elbows, and shoulders are in line with each other. And if you can, the goal is to push away from the earth. When you're here, again, you want to make sure belly button is pulled back to the spine and you're attempting to hop to the side as high as you can. Now, if you can't do the hop because it's too much stress, you can definitely step up to each side. Just make sure the core stays really nice and tight. Here we're going to be doing leg lifts, or if you like a challenge, you can do heels to heaven. So here, something that's super important is anytime you're doing ab exercises, you want to make sure your chest stays really big and that your back stays really flush to the ground, okay? So if you're somebody that has an arch in your lower back, even when you try to attempt to lay on the ground, this is a good point for you to either put a pillow under your bottom or something to lift your hips up so that your back can be flush to the ground. So the more flush to the ground your back is, the more your core is working. And here you're going to exhale when you lift your legs up and inhale when you lower. Okay, so inhale down, exhale, lift up. And again, you want to avoid that arching in the lower back as you're doing this movement. Here we're going to be doing scissors. So you want to make sure here that your shoulders are really nice and rolled back. Your core is really nice and engaged, so back is really flush to the ground. And to do this movement, you're just going to be crossing your feet over each other. So here, the goal is to make sure your back stays flush as you're doing the movement. So you can see where you can do this movement. You can either try in a low position, a middle position, or a higher position. Just again, make sure the back stays flush. This is going to be sit and reach across. So here you want to make sure your back stays really nice and flush to the ground. So if you have that lower arch, you could put a pillow on the bottom if you need to. So you're just reaching across here. So you're inhaling at the bottom, exhaling when you reach up and across. Here, if you feel like you're getting a lot of stress on the neck, you can definitely do this movement on the ground without lifting the head. Just make sure, again, the core stays really nice and flush. And you're inhaling at the bottom and exhaling at the top when you reach. Alright, last one here. So here, this is a plank. You have an option to either do a forearm plank or a high plank. Just be sure that those wrists, elbows, and shoulders are in line with each other. And here, to make the plank easier, the goal is to attempt to push away from the earth. So the more you push away from the earth, the more the core is going to be working. So just make sure your belly button is pulled to the spine as you're doing this.